Great. Good morning once again, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like us to get the program going. So if you're outside by the door, please make your way. We'd like to start now. Last call. If you're outside, please make your way. I'd like to invite everybody else who's seated on this side. If you could just move and let's occupy the midsection, that would be great. So yeah, if you're still standing outside, you're probably in the wrong meeting. All right, great. Before we get things going too far, I'd like to just invite us to be upstanding for the national anthem. Thank you. Please take your seats. Great. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning for real. Before we start, I'd like to bring up Miss Boyd to lead us in a word of prayer.
Okay. Shall we pray? Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you this morning with thanksgiving and praise in our hearts. Lord, we'd like to give thanks for the opportunity to serve the country, the nation, the region, and Africa at large, and the whole world. Lord, as we embark on this very noble cause of the Climate Action Zone, we ask for your guidance, we ask for your wisdom, we ask for your presence. And Lord, for the outcome of these meetings, we will give you all the glory. We ask all this trusting and believing in your name. Amen.
Thank you so much. Great. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bonnie Tunya. I'll be helping run the program this morning. Thank you for being here today and welcome to the Climate Action Zone. So this is a very important conversation that is obviously a complementary conversation of a very important gathering on the continent this week where Africans are coming together to try and have a conversation about their future on this planet. So the Climate Action Zone is a space where we allow thinkers and players in this space to really come and have deep conversations to explore opportunities for collaboration, to inform policy, but really to drive the agenda that is part of the bigger conversation that everybody on the continent is having this week on the future of our climate. Today marks, is day one, but really day two, because yesterday we had wonderful conversations where we explored, financing opportunities for the climate and the opportunities thereof. And like I'm saying, all these opportunities are to really put the African voice on the map, right? For a long time we've been saying, the rest of the world is polluting the world and Africa is on the receiving end, but really, if you look at the growth rate that is the African continent, we need to be part of this conversation because we are part of this. And so for the rest of the day, we'll be getting an opportunity to really have engaging conversations that will be guiding us and helping inform a bigger conversation. And the big thing that we're doing here is really about collaboration. It's about people coming together, sharing their experiences, their expertise, their areas of influence, the spaces in which they control, and really saying, what is my role? And my plea for us today, even as we engage, as we interact, is to really figure that out. What is your specific role as a person, as an organization, as a country, in adding a voice to really saying, this is where we want our future to go, and this is how we're planning to protect the planet, and this is how we think Africa should be engaged in this. But before we get to all that, I'd like to just treat you to, we'll be having lots of conversations everywhere in this city today, this week rather, and people will be speaking, people will be making presentations, there'll be panel conversations. There are many, many ways of engaging in this. But in these ways that we've figured out, we realize there is many groups of people that are left behind. The youth, for example, the guys who will actually be around here 2063 are not involved in these conversations, right? And the Climate Action Zone has really taken time to allow the youth voice in this space. So we've had our climate action heroes, we've had young people engage and have their voice heard and speak in a language they understand as far as their contribution to and thoughts about the climate. And we'll be looking at opportunities to do that. Today amongst us, we have the Children Climate Summit, right? Where children are saying, we also have a voice. And so our point is really to ensure that everybody's voice is heard. And talking about everybody, I'd like to bring on stage a group of people who have their own unique way of contributing and adding their voice to this climate conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, Sarakasi dancers. Let's hear it again for Sarakasi dancers. Please don't try it at home. You'll break something, yeah? But that was fantastic. Just amazing, the messages that are being passed through the dance. And that is truly, truly beautiful way of expressing and really adding our voice to these conversations on our continent. So thank you very much, Sarakasi dancers, for lending your talent to this conversation. So ladies and gentlemen, these side events are important, like I said, because they allow us a bit more time to be intimate with some of the conversations that we're having, to spend a little bit more time to interrogate some of the thoughts that are being presented. And the thoughts, the ideas that arise from this find their way to the highest level. And so it's very important to know that your voice, your contributions, your expertise is vital and is being used in shaping the conversations that we're having in this country and on behalf of the continent. Because really the idea of the Africa Climate Summit is to secure a position, an African position, a position that then Africa will go with to the table and say, this is how we think we can be part of this. And your role is very important. Like I said, this is a build-up from conversation and many, many different spaces that started yesterday. And we are hoping to carry on till Wednesday with the hope that we have a bit more time to deeply interrogate some of the ideas that we have. And before I go too far, I'd like to bring up on stage our hosts and the conveners of this to really just set the tone for today and give you like a sense of what to expect, but also to really introduce what will be coming up shortly after. So ladies and gentlemen, allow me to bring on stage the Deputy Executive Director and Head of Partnerships at Alliance for Science, Mr. Michael Onyango. Should Michael dance? Do you think he can? He should, yeah? He already is in gear, right?
Thank you, Bonnie. Good morning, everyone. I, first of all, want to give you a warm welcome to Nairobi, Kenya. For those of you who this is your first time here, we're extremely grateful to have you with us. On behalf of the Alliance for Science, today and this week is an extremely important time and place in history for us. But first of all, let me bring you greetings from our Executive Director, Dr. Sheila Ochubuju. She is not here right now because she's currently having another meeting. She's actually having breakfast with the First Ladies who are here. So that's why she's not in the room, but you will see her later on today. However, just a little bit of tidbits about Nairobi and Kenya and the country that you're in, and why we do claim a right to hold the Africa Climate Week celebration here, and also the Africa Climate Summit, and of course our own event, the Climate Action Zone, which you are in. Many of you may not know that at any time of the year, Nairobi is the place that has the highest number of migratory birds passing through at any time of the year. Kenya, this country that we're in, rightfully, is the only country in the whole world that has 6 ecological zones. So, thank you. So again, I think we do have a reason to want to ensure that the joint agenda of bringing voices from Africa, but also further still across the global south, that matter in this conversation of climate change will be discussed today and for the next 3 days going. Yesterday we had a fantastic and a great beginning with what we called our Day Zero on matters green building, construction, finance, and Bonnie already gave a bit of a recap of that. We will encourage you to go onto our social media networks so you can have a more in-depth understanding of what and who was in the room. But rightfully so, I also want to extend a very warm welcome to our partners, our colleagues from Southeast Asia, specifically from Bangladesh, from the LATAM countries, specifically from Guatemala, Mexico, and of course, our working colleagues in the Global North too, from the US, from the UK also, who are also here with us. We're very grateful to have you here. Our partners across the continent, from Zambia, who are also here, we're glad to have you here. And I'm happy that just before I came on stage, and I will not dance, the Sarakati dancers were able to give a great rendition and brought into the room also the Senegalese with that last tune that came from Salif Keita, that they had a beautiful performance too. So what do we expect this week, and what do we expect from you? This is a place and a zone where we have ensured that the voices who would have ordinarily been left out of this conversation are able to come, convene, discuss, and ensure that their voices shall and will be captured. We are working in parallel to support and to ensure that the voices of the young, the voices of women, the voices of those who are not necessarily in the capital cities across and around the countrysides are captured, and we have an extremely eclectic program and various activities that will continue to happen throughout the day and are also concurrently happening. Right now, as we speak down here upstairs, we have, as you heard, the Africa Children's Summit, where we've got school children who are also discussing what they know, what they understand, and what they want for their future. We are happy to note that as the Global South, we're all speaking with one voice and one agenda, and we're extremely conscious of the fact that we have more in common than more that makes us different. Our diversity is what can and will continue to help inform our futures. Right after this session, we're going to have our colleagues who have come from Bangladesh, who will be able to have some learnings and will share what they are doing, what they have done, what the challenges are, and how they've turned those into opportunities. But however, we also want to say that as we continue working through your various sessions, remember that we are also going to come up with one document, which is the accumulation of the climate action zone, of what it is that we want and must be compiled as we go forward to COP28, which will be in Dubai later on this November. So again, on behalf of the Alliance for Science, stay around, invite your friends to come over. There's many more things you will be seeing. If you look around the room, you can see we have various different SDGs represented as heroes. That's all I'm going to say now. If you want to find out what that is about, stick around, and we're actually going to be unveiling them. We have them here with us as our superheroes, so you'll get to know a little bit about who they are and what they do and why they're important. And that is our way as Alliance for Science in ensuring that a wider number of the population are able to own, understand the whole conversation of the SDGs in a way and in a language which is compatible with their thinking. I had noticed that last evening, as I watched some of the various local news items, a lot of activists made noise and did complain that they were locked out of the main Africa Climate Summit that's currently happening at Kenyatta International Conference Center. Well, again, I want to say that here we are an inclusive center for all the different voices. If you feel that you are left out, we want to again reiterate that here you have a space and a place for your voices to be heard. And because, despite the fact that the other summit is happening on the other side, we do work and have strong linkages with them. So we will leverage upon our partnerships, upon our working relationships with various partners who are currently in the main summit to ensure that the voices and the agendas from here also get added onto the main agenda that is on the other side. So again, ladies and gentlemen, an extremely warm welcome to Nairobi and to Kenya, and a warm welcome to Africa as we host on behalf of the continent. If you do need anything throughout the whole day, we have a lot of our people around wearing black t-shirts written Climate Action Zone. Please reach out to any one of them and we will be able to help and direct you. So we'll keep updating you as to what else is going out in our other breakout rooms that we have upstairs. But again, please make your voices heard. Do take an active participation in the various conversations we will be having. Thank you and welcome.
Great, thank you, Michael, for setting the tone. And I think without much ado, I'd like us to really get to the first sort of order of business today. Whenever we're talking about the conversation about climate and how that is changing and how our planet is evolving, our survival comes to mind, right? And we've had many, many interesting intersections where the need for us to survive either clash with the need to preserve and protect the planet. And they've also been very clever people who've figured out ways of coexisting, because both of us have to be here. The question of food security and food production and how do those two coexist? Can farmers still have a space in production as well as protecting the climate and the planet? And all these conversations that have become existential for us now, because we are getting to a point where we're really starting to ask ourselves very difficult questions about our survival and about where we're heading. And so this morning will be treated to, I'd say, opportunities of best practice, with huge, huge opportunities of learning how other markets have done this and what are the pain points and how can we leverage those lessons as Africa. Do we need to have a do-over of the mistakes, and how do we avoid that? And so our first presentation today will be on farming future in Bangladesh, and it is my honor to bring Mr. Arif Hussain to take us through this. Karibu sana.
Good morning, everyone. Is it working? It's an honor and privilege to be here and share the stage with so many people, starting from yesterday, today, and the after. Climate change and the devastating impact of climate change has affected global south, and we have seen drought, flood, storms affecting the food production and livelihood in Asia, in Africa, for the children, for the adult, So this is high time for us to call an action that will definitely and certainly ensure better life and well-being for the future. Without any further ado, I'd like to share a few of our experience that we have had in Bangladesh and how we are going to share that within our partner and colleague in the Global South. When we talk about climate change, it's kind of complicated. Like we get both people who like it, who does not like it. But in my presentation, I'd like to share what we have seen in Bangladesh and how we have tried to share our experience and knowledge within the Global South Asia. So it's a small country that I'm from, Bangladesh, with a huge number of population. And the total land, if you count, is little extra than two of your county. And with the population means we have demand and requirement for food and other resources for life. If we look into the agriculture and food security landscape, it's green, it's empowering, it's happy face. You'll see it everywhere in Bangladesh. And in last 50 years, we have learned, we have adopted newer technologies. Our crop production and productivity has been increased. And with the limited amount of land, only 8 million hectares of arable land, we have been able to feed our population. These are the few areas where we have been able to excel. We have been investing in research and capacity building. Also, trying to invest in our own capacity so that we can sustain the food productivity and provide food for 160 million or almost 170 million now. I'd like to share a video that might share and reflect the growth and resilience that we have observed in last 50 years.
Bangladesh, the home of affluent greeneries. There are a few countries so filled with such lush greeneries, grains, fruits, flowers, and such a rich, diverse natural resource. A long history of struggle lies behind the birth of our motherland. Greatest Bengali of all time, the father of our nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Bangabandhu dreamt of establishing a Bangladesh free of starvation, poverty, deprivation, and discrimination. He said, "Each and every people of my country will have food, will have shelter, will have education, and will have a good life. This is my dream." He believed that we can create a prosperous nation through sustainable agricultural production, and thus he took various initiatives to introduce modern agricultural practice in post-independence Bangladesh. He declared a green revolution to eradicate hunger and poverty from the country. To materialize Bangabandhu's dreams, following his footsteps, his commendable daughter, our Honorable Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina, has emphasized on agriculture. She has taken effective actions and provided adequate financial allocation. Under her prudent leadership and skilled administration, Bangladesh's agriculture is now soaring higher than ever. The country has won over 5 decades of floods, other natural calamities, and countless struggles, and now knocking at the doors of prosperity. Bangladesh is now a vivid example of achievers in food grain production in the world. Right after independence, approximately 11 million metric tons of food was produced in the country. Today, the count crosses 40 million metric tons. Intensity of cropping has increased as well. Currently, Bangladesh stands second among the world in jute and jackfruit production, third in paddy, vegetables, onion production, seventh in mango and potato production, and eighth in guava production. Bangladesh has progressed further in the production of paddy, wheat and corn, surpassing the average production of the world. Bangladesh stands among the top 10 countries of the world producing 12 agri-products. In the past 50 years after independence, this heroic nation of Bangladesh has started from zero and turned herself to an indomitable nation today. It is a development role model today. Aided by sustainable and advanced agriculture, Bangladesh will attain its Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, and turn to a happy, prosperous, and developed nation by 2041. The dream worth dreaming.
The dream worth dreaming, true. I mean, if we can, Kenya can, many of the African countries can, but due to COVID, political crises, all the success story that we have observed has been, challenged. And particularly with climate change, it has impacted and affected our food production and productivity. This is kind of like the scenario of climate change that we usually observe in Bangladesh. And the growing temperature, I borrowed this slide from my colleague Mark. He'll be talking more about climate change and how it can impact our life and economy. This is something we don't contribute to and we can't stop. And even some of the Asian countries like China and India, they are big contributor for greenhouse gas emission, but Bangladesh contributes less than 1% in that portfolio. Yet the economic impact could be much more devastating for us and for the other neighboring country. Let's watch another story. Sorry. Do we have a video here?
আমার গেল 10 বছরে এই ঘরটারে 3 বার এখানে পাস করে আনতে হইছে কেন আনতে হইছে এটা আমরা বলি দিতে হবে আমার নাম জব্বার বয়াতি আমি গত 30 বছর থেকে মাছ ধরছি এখন দেখি নদীতে কোনো মাছ নাই আমার এই ব্যবসা এখন ছাড়িয়ে দিতে হয় এই নদী আর তুফান আমারে একেবারে শেষ করে দিয়েছে আমার কিছু নাই আমার 3টে ছেলে ছিল একটা ছেলে ভাসিয়ে গেছে আর 2টে ছেলে অকর্ম হইয়া বাইরে কাজে চলে গেছে আমার জাল ছিল নৌকো ছিল ট্রলার ছিল ঘর ছিল সব কিছু আমার চলে গেছে সাগরে আপনারা চলেন আমার ঘর কোনখানে ছিল আপনাকে দেখাই এই যে পিছনে পানি দেখেন এই যে আমার প্রথম ঘর ছিল হেয়ার পর ওই যে নাহল গেছ দেখেন ওই জায়গায় যাই আমি বিয়ের পরে রয়েছি ঘরটা রুগেই ডুবেইয়া গেছে হ্যাঁ ভাঙ্গা হেয়ার মসজিদে জায়গা দেওয়া হবে বাবাই কয় বেড়া জায়গা তো মসজিদে দিছি তুই পাবি কেমনি কমিটি এলাকা কথা মসজিদ গরিব না ও গরিব কলে ওই তো গরিব কথা অরে দেও ও মসজিদে কিছু পয়সা টয়সা দিয়ে দেবে হেয়ার পর রইলে মাইয়া সেই জায়গায় গেলে হে জায়গাও ভাঙ্গা এরপর তো আয়লা আইসি পর তো আমি আল্লামে বাদের উপরে আমি গেলাম নদীতে সাগরে মাছ ধরতে আইলাই ওই রাস্তা ঘর বাড়ি আমার যা আনলে সব বাসায় নিয়ে গেছে কিচ্ছু নাই এরপর আমি একুলি কিছু জমি কায়দা করিয়া সেই জায়গায় এখন বর্তমানে থাকি আমি হইলে চাচা মূর্খ মানুষ আমি তো লেখাপড়া জানি না মানুষে বলে যে জলবায়ু পরিবর্তন হয় জলবায়ু কি এটা তো আমি কিছু বুঝি না তাই মানুষে কই করে কয় যদি গাড়ি চালায় এসি চালায় টিভি চালায় তাহলে জলবায়ু পরিবর্তন হয় আপনারা যাই দেখেন আমার ঘরের ভিতর আমার একটা টিভি নাই আমার ফ্যান নাই আমার কিছু নাই আমার গেল 10 বছরে এই ঘরটারে 3 বার এখানে পাস করে আনতে হয়েছে। তাহলে কেন আনতে হয়েছে এটা আমরা বলে দিতে হবে। আমার জীবনটা কি এইভাবেই যাবে? এ জায়গায় দেও জায়গায়, ও জায়গায় দেও জায়গায়, আমার দোষটা কোথায়?
This is the story we don't like to see, but we can't deny or ignore. So what happened after that? The government, we realized that we will be devastated by climate change and all its effect. And we have taken a long-term approach, the Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan, which would allow us to deal with different components, including agriculture, employment, health, and other vital component of life and livelihood. And we have been trying to bargain with different community, government, and other partner to make it successful with different funding opportunity and other initiative by the government. Because when we talk about climate change, it has a significant correlation with biosphere, with the society, and with the economic well-being that we talk. Now, let's talk about farming future. I mean, with this context, we emerged as a startup entity back in 2018, and we have been doing our show for the last 4 years. We are a science-enabling environment and policy organization working with different community. We try to work in an environment where we have the opportunities to build capacity within our partner. We do a lot of policy advocacy work with different government. And communication and outreach is one core and niche area of Farming Future Bangladesh to advocate for the message and narrative that we have shared. These are the few core area and mandate that we have initiated: climate change, food security, global health, and misinformation around ag biotech, GMO, and genome editing. And in our theory of change, as I mentioned earlier, that the economic well-being depends on the ground, on society, and all other component of sustainable development goal. For the strategy, we try to generate and share evidence. We always try to engage different stakeholder and partner in the conversation, and eventually we try to empower the community. Why? Because when we share evidence, it helps people to take an informed decision, and they can take a credible information from a credible source, and they can take the decision for productivity and resilience. For example, to talk about a product like BT eggplant, which has been approved and grown by farmer since 2016 in Bangladesh, and more than 65,000 farmers are growing it. This is an evidence we want to share across the region. When we talk about empowerment and engagement, then it's about knowledge sharing, acceptance of technology within different communities, starting from youth to adult. For example, we have been working with faith community. They're very influential in our society. So we are trying to learn from them that how the knowledge of science, climate change, food security can be horizontally shared within different communities. And when we talk about empowerment, that means creating an enabling environment where people will have equal access to different resources, like engagement with women and youth. Particularly, like the most population we have in the global south, women and youth are marginalized and they don't have access to innovations. So we want to work with them and enable the environment to allow them to have access to the innovation. So these are the number of activities that we have been doing through Farming Future for the last couple of years, starting from very grassroots to grassroots. Policy advocacy, working with different community, with scientists, with academia, with youth. We do a number of work around policy advocacy and related arena, policy affair and other thing. We have been working and doing work with our global team and with the grassroots team. For the grassroots, we are well connected with the farming community. This year we celebrated a National Farmer Day. We have another side talk, particularly on this celebration. So even in Bangladesh, we had this celebration, nearly 500 people joined in that campaign. We tried to celebrate and recognize the value and the time and the commitment that you get from farmer for the food security. They have been working tremendously, making sure that we are well fed. So we tried to honor them, to host dinner for them, arrange games and show and other things for them. Science communication is a core area of our work from Farming Future and also from Alliance for Science. So we have been working with different scientists and different community, providing them training about science communication and outreach activities. Apart from that, we were capable of engaging grassroots, like different minister, powerful people, and going even in the field, in the courtyard, to talk with women, to talk with the, like mother, grandmother, talking about climate change, biotech, GM, all the things. Apart from that, we have been involved and engaged with health and nutrition community. When we talk about nutritional benefit of any product, the public perception leans towards more to a health professional rather than to a scientist who works in the lab. So we try to understand that how this can be navigated and how we can transform the message from laboratory to a health community, later on to the social society and the social community. So we've been working with different health professionals, and apart from that, we are engaged to disseminate message and narrative through media, national and international level media, by arranging, roundtable programs, media training, exposure tour in different country and different division, and then try to understand that how all this innovation and the messaging can be translated through mass media, because they have a wider reach within the community, and sometimes they can influence the decision making both at policy level and for the community. So we've been trying to understand how this can be escalated through media engagement. Apart from that, we initiated media fellowship. As of now, we have done 2 media fellowship cohort with our partner. It was an intense program with some selected journalists. Youth is a big component of our activity in Farming Future Bangladesh. Even this year, we initiated a campaign with one of the leading national media. More than 6,500 youth members across the country joined the campaign to understand innovation. And we have been partnering with a number of public and private universities, providing leadership skill, training, capacity building program for youth, inspiring them to tell the stories and engaging them with their own community. And then we started this radio program, particularly to reach the hard-to-reach community with the nationally owned radio station. As a follow-up activity, we also initiated a television program, a dialogue and discussion, where we bring and invite people from the sector to discuss critical issues about climate change, food security, women empowerment, and health and well-being of farmer. As of now, we have done almost 98 episodes. I'm glad that my team allows me to host the program. So I've been able to engage, executives, leaders from different community to come in the show and talk what they want to do and what is the challenge and what are the solutions for the issues. So it helped us to bring people in the room, and when you have a conference and meeting, the discussion mostly remains confined only within the community. But in a TV or radio, the content remains there for long. As long as you have internet, you'll have that discussion, and people can have better access to that. So now I'd like to talk about the faith community. Why faith community? Food is not only a matter of commodity in Global South. We offer food to the God. We offer food when we celebrate a birthday. We offer food when we start a new family. So food is not only a matter of calorie and component. It has an inbuilt cultural thing in part of Global South in many countries, in Africa, in Asia, in Southeast Asia. So we try to understand that how this can be transformed in a message where the communities would have easier access to understanding the scientific issue. If we have a scientist from a lab going, in the grassroots talking about the complicated issue of climate change, like biotech, GM, or all the modern cutting-edge technology, it becomes very complicated to translate those scientific messages in a narrative that can be understood by the community. Then I realized that we can connect with the faith leader. For example, in a mosque in Bangladesh, every week almost 200 to 300 people gather for the weekly prayer. And the imam of the mosque is in a position to disseminate, like the most complicated message in a simplified way with analogy and other things. So we tried to understand that trajectory and have been investing on faith community and faith leader, providing them training, building their capacity, understanding from them what they understand about these modern tools and technology and how this can be escalated through different engagement opportunities. And then we worked with the Sharia expert, people who understands, like the deeper meaning of, or at least believes that they understand the deeper meaning of religion and the issues related to that. So we try to initiate the discussion with them that how they think of these innovations and like climate change and other issues, and how they can disseminate these narrative and messages within the community. And we also tried to replicate the same thing with female, or women faith leader in different part of the country. Let us see a video about the training that we have initiated.
হযরত মুহাম্মদ সাল্লাল্লাহু আলাইহি ওয়াসাল্লামের জামানায়ও কিন্তু সাহাবীরা খেজুরের হাইব্রিডাইজেশন করছে। তো প্রথম হুজুর সাল্লাল্লাহু আলাইহি ওয়াসাল্লাম এটাকে নিষেধ করছেন যে এটা না করার জন্য। তো সাহাবারা হুজুর সাল্লাল্লাহু আলাইহি ওয়াসাল্লামের কাছে রিপোর্ট করলেন যে ইয়া রাসূলুল্লাহ আমাদের তো ফলন কম হয়েছে। নবীজি সাল্লাল্লাহু আলাইহি ওয়াসাল্লাম বললেন দুনিয়ার ব্যাপারে তোমরাই ভালো বোঝো।
সায়েন্স মানুষের জনকল্যাণের জন্য ব্যবহার হয়ে আসছে, সেই জন্যই ধর্মীয়ভাবে এটা কোনো ইন্টারাকশন নাই। আজকে সায়েন্স এবং ধর্ম একে অপরের সাথে অঙ্গাঙ্গিভাবে জড়িত।
আমরা মুসলমান হিসেবে আমরা কিন্তু খাদ্যের যেমন নিরাপদ চাই এবং সেটা হালাল চাই। আজকে আপনারা যেই কাজগুলো করছেন, বিটি, বেগুন, তাছাড়া আপনারা রাইস নিয়ে কাজ করছেন, আপনারা যে ভিটামিনটা আপনারা গ্রো করছেন এবং সেটাকে আমাদের খাবারের রাইসের মধ্যে, চাউলের মধ্যে দিচ্ছেন, সেটা হালাল পন্থায় দিচ্ছেন।
যে ইমাম সাহেবরা যেই চেয়ারে আছেন, এই চেয়ারে এরকম প্রতি সপ্তাহে কথা বলার মতন সুযোগ একজন বড় লেভেলের মানুষের থাকে না।
তা আমরা যদি এই ধরনের টেকনোলজি আমরা ডেভেলপ না করি, তাহলে কিন্তু আমাদের উৎপাদন হবে না। আমাদের বাড়তি জনশক্তি খাদ্যের যোগান কোথা থেকে দেব? এই জন্য আমাদের অব্যাহত রাখতে হবে।
And after this number of training program, we moved forward with a grassroots campaign. Next slide, please.
আল্লাহ তাআলা কোরআনের মধ্যে বলেন, ইয়া আইয়ুহান নাস কুলু মিম্মা ফিল আরদি হালালান তাইয়্যিবা, হে মানুষ, জমিনের মধ্যে আমি তোমাদের জন্য উত্তম উত্তম রিজিক রেখেছি। আল কাসিবু হাবিবুল্লাহ, আল্লাহর নবী নিজেই বলতেছেন, যারা কর্ম করে খায়, কৃষি কাজ করে, তারা আল্লাহ তাআলার প্রিয় বান্দা। আমরা বাজারে গেলে সর্বপ্রথম আমরা দেখি বেগুনে পোকা আছে কিনা। জিন প্রকৌশলের মাধ্যমে, বৈজ্ঞানিকদের পদ্ধতিতে কৃষি গবেষণা যারা করে, তারা বিটি বেগুন নামে একটা বেগুন বের করছে।
এই বিটি বেগুনটা এমন ফল এবং ডগা চিত্রকারী ক্ষমতা সম্পন্নকারী একটা ফলন।
বিটি বেগুন চাষের কারণে কৃষকের ক্ষেতে কীটনাশক ব্যবহার কমেছে প্রায় 62%, ফলন বেড়েছে প্রায় 6 গুণ। সেই সাথে ক্ষতিকর রাসায়নিক কীটনাশক ব্যবহার কমে যাওয়ায় পরিবেশও রক্ষা হচ্ছে।
আধুনিক গবেষণার একটা চাল বের হয়েছে, এটা হলো গোল্ডেন রাইস। এই চালের কালার হলো সোনালী কালার, দেখতে খুব সুন্দর।
স্বাভাবিক ধানের মধ্যে বিশেষ জেনেটিক পদ্ধতিতে ভিটামিন এ এর বিটা ক্যারোটিন জিন যোগ করায় এতে পরিবেশ ও মানবদেহে কোনো বিরূপ প্রতিক্রিয়া বা প্রভাব পড়বে না।
ভিটামিন এ যদি না থাকে তাহলে মানুষের রাতকানা রোগের সৃষ্টি হয়, অনেক মানুষ যে রাত্রে দেখে না। আবার গবেষণায় দেখা গিয়েছে 21% মানুষের টিউমার হয় এবং স্কিন ক্যান্সার হয় হচ্ছে ভিটামিন এ এর অভাবে।
বিশ্ব স্বাস্থ্য সংস্থার জরিপে বলা হয় যে প্রতি বছরে শুধুমাত্র ভিটামিন এ এর কারণে, ভিটামিন এ না থাকার কারণে প্রতি বছরে পৃথিবীর মধ্যে 60 কোটি মানুষ বিভিন্ন রোগে আক্রান্ত হচ্ছে। মনে রাখবেন, পৃথিবীতে আমাদের জন্য যতই কৃত্রিম খাবার থাকুক না কেন, জমিনের খাবারের মতো পবিত্র আর উৎকৃষ্ট আর নিরাপদ পুষ্টিকর খাবার কিয়ামত পর্যন্ত কোনো মানুষ বানাইতে পারবে না।
বিজ্ঞানের সাথে ইসলামের কোনো দ্বন্দ্ব নেই, বরং ইসলাম বিজ্ঞানের প্রতি উৎসাহিত করেছে। এই জন্য নতুন যে কোনো আবিষ্কার এ বিষয়ে ইসলামের উৎসাহ আছে। ইসলাম এটাকে গ্রহণ করার বিষয়ে আমাদেরকে উদ্দীপ্ত করেছে।
So with all these initiatives and learning, last month we initiated Global South Hub Asia program, and the idea behind and the mission and objective of it is to share the knowledge and experience that we have gathered in Bangladesh and also in Africa, in some of the Asian countries. We look forward to collaboration and partnership both at national and international level, so that we can exchange our capacity within the Global South. We belong to a community where we have more than 5 million people, and the knowledge and capacity has been there in history, in Africa and in Asia. So now it's our high time to invest within ourselves and our capacity. These are the few national and international partners that Farming Future Bangladesh has been working with. And all the things that we have done, it's a life that we talk about, a story that we want to share within our colleague, our network and partner, where we don't want to see a farmer like Shahjahan spraying pesticide 80 to 100 times a day. Rather, someone like Afzal who can get a better opportunity with 6-fold increased income if he's allowed to have the access to the technology like BT Brain Gel. Any smallholder farmer who are suffering will continue to suffer if the decisions are not taken, if the actions are not taken within a very short notice. We want to see that smallholder farmer and the community that we belong to can benefit from the innovations that we have. And then when we talk about well-being of people, it should be done equally. The food, access to food and nutrition should be open for all. It's a human rights issue. It's not any like policy decision or any government's money-making decision. We have to make an environment where everyone has equal access to nutrition and proper food and environment and a climate where people can live equally. That's what we are at Farming Future Bangladesh, and we'd love to hear from you all and taking the knowledge and expertise that you have so that we can spread it with our own community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Arif, before you leave stage, I'd like to indulge you for a bit. I mean, those presentations were very powerful, and there's a lot of lessons that we could learn. And my first question would be, how do you cascade that influence, especially to influence policy at the political level, government level? Because, I mean, there's a lot of people here who are involved in different kind of initiatives, but how do you get some of these learnings shared at the highest level?
I try to answer it in a different way. I mean, everyone works for some common goal and mission. The point of departure could be different. Someone using the tool of biotech, someone wants to invest on organic technology. But each and everyone in the community, whether a political party, the prime minister, or a scientist in the laboratory, everyone wants to ensure that the product, the innovation goes to the community. So when we try to engage different stakeholders in the community, the narrative around it sometimes becomes complicated. We try to engage the policy and government high official in many of our program and get buy-in from them, because we talk about well-being and benefit of the people. And we are not biased with any messaging and information. And we are very grassroots. And last but not least, I believe they look into our passion. I mean, we don't make money from doing all these things. So when I go to a minister or a secretary of any department, they love to hear what you do. They love to partner with different program and event. That's how we try to, work as a catalyst and try to connect different service provider and beneficiaries.
Right. And my last question would be, obviously, when you talk about science and what science can do, there's a lot of misinformation. Especially in Kenya, we currently are facing lots of misinformation. If you look across Africa, there's a lot of misinformation about genetically modified foods and whatnot. Just give us a sense of how Bangladesh, and your case, for example, has navigated the challenge of misinformation.
If you see the source of misinformation, these are limited number of like media, social media outlet, and few, vested group, they spread it. And in the trajectory of Internet of Things, if you have more positive story, in the search optimization, positive stories will come forward. So we have been investing on evidence-based information since 2013 and 14. Back in those days, if you Google the word BT eggplant, out of 10 stories, 8 would come like negative story. Now, after this session, you search it in your phone, you'll say that 80% are positive stories. That creates a positive impression within the community. So you have to provide and create a lot of content and evidence-based information. You have to bring people who generates the information. I'm not a scientist, but I work with the scientist. So when a scientist comes to per se a training program or a like youth engagement activity, they can inspire and influence the discussion and dialogue. So misinformation can be navigated. We track how these are like done. We try to create more information and evidence-based information so that the flow of information become balanced and sometimes positive information comes forward.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Great. Oh, yeah. Before you leave, sorry to keep you on stage for too long. Do you have a question or a thought that somebody wanted to raise before I lock you out? Going once. Twice. All right, so I believe Arif will still be in the building, so you're happy to take questions from people as you interact? Excellent. Great, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Arif Hussain and the wonderful thoughts and lessons that we are learning from Bangladesh, and that's really the heart of what we're doing here today, to try and get as much as possible of this. Great, so ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite us for a tea break right now. We'll take 20 minutes, and then we reconvene here at 25 past for a very interesting conversation on Farmers' Day campaign. You don't want to miss that. So please, the tea is served right outside. Once you have it, please let's reconvene back 11:25 to have that conversation on Farmers' Day campaign. Thank you so much. section because of our live streaming. For staying put, and like we said, these side conversations just afford you a chance to really interact a lot more deeply with some of the proposals, suggestions. This morning we were treated to lots and lots of insightful lessons from Bangladesh. And this is sort of the tone of things to come, where we are looking at the challenges that we are facing currently, but also we are cognizant of our environment and trying to figure out, can we figure out solutions that are best suited for us? Can we figure out solutions that are sustainable, that make sense, and solutions that actually put Africa first? Like we mentioned earlier in the morning, the goal of the Climate Action Zone also is to allow every stakeholder to have a voice. Every stakeholder to have their thoughts captured. And so we've been able to put together in the course of these 4 days, specially curated sessions where we'll have different stakeholders come together to explore their expertise. We talked about the Children's Climate Summit that is ongoing, where we are saying the children also have a voice, right? The young people have a voice. Entrepreneurs, business people, government, civil society organizations. Everybody has a piece of the jigsaw that we are hoping that you'll be able to find and actively play that role even as we go. Great. So we started off early in the morning with a conversation of how to coexist in this planet. We talked about the question of food security and how do we continue to produce, feed ourselves while still protect the planet. We'll be taking that conversation a notch higher as we'll be exploring how then do we lend even a bigger voice to our farmers across the African continent. But before that, I'd like to bring back, not back, but for the first time this morning on stage, the Executive Director of the Alliance for Science, Dr. Sheila Chukboju, to introduce a very special group of people. Karibu sana. Let's clap for her, come on. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm sorry I couldn't join you at the beginning. I was called upstairs, and it was an extraordinary moment. I was called upstairs to the Children's Summit. So the Grasha Machel Trust has brought about 200 children from across the world for the Children's Climate Summit. And they have a declaration which they wanted to hand over. And so this was the breakfast meeting upstairs. It was really emotional. They are extraordinary activists. They understand the issues. They are vocal, and they are determined. And so they gave me a lot of confidence that this will go beyond a talk shop. And it just reaffirmed the need to have a zone for action that goes beyond talking, because that's what they were saying. It was really, really beautiful. So that's what I was doing upstairs. And then it also made sense of why we invested in the superheroes. So we were talking about SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. And we're saying, you know, we want to animate them, want to bring them to life, because the struggle is real, the challenges are real. No poverty is the pinnacle of where we want to be when we achieve the 17 development goals. And we're halfway through, and we need to get more serious now because we are not doing well. Zero hunger is probably the last. It's lagging way behind. It's right at the end. So we decided to, first of all, turn them into characters, and our extraordinary graphic designer, Wences, turned them into heroes. So those are the cutouts you've been seeing around. And then we decided to have fun with it and
hire some actors and models and get them to personify it and begin to have fun and interact with audiences. So I'd like to bring them up on stage. Let's start with No Poverty. Give him a hand as he comes up. And we auditioned all of these guys. They were over 100 came up to audition. It was like a 2-day notice. And he's the one that was picked for No Poverty. Karibu, good morning. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you think it's important for us to be passionate about this SDG goal.
All right, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Musa Moke, but today you can call me No Poverty for the rest of the day. And now, just to say by the least, No Poverty derails the no poverty derails the mission to achieve all our goals as said, and we're connecting it with climate change. Then climate change also in a way influences the poverty levels, right? And with that too, in the last 2 years, during the pandemic, the poverty level shot up to 9.5%, right? Which has been the highest shoot since the 1990s. So we need to have more candid conversations about this and ensure that we reduce the poverty level so we can be able to, at the end of the day, achieve economic growth in the whole globe.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And when you look at the characters, thank you, Mega. When you look at the characters as cutouts, we try to, all 17 of them, make them as diverse as possible. So you'll see that they come from different regions of the world. They're men, they're women. So we want to have everybody see a little bit about themselves somewhere in the 17 SDGs. They're actually 18 characters because partnerships is actually 2 people. So the next SDG, where is Zero Hunger? There he is. Oh, and you've brought a basket full of produce. Ooh.
Hello, hello, hello. How are you?
Hi.
My name is Zero Hunger. It's important that farmers pretty much produce things that are healthy to our bodies. There's no question about it. We know the soil has been devastated. Degradation has taken place. And it's good that at least as Alliance, we see where the interjection is, what needs to be done in order for each and every single soul has access to healthy, good, nutritious food. This is the key to good health. So with this, empowering the farmers, you have No Poverty coming in. And so mine is to be able to interact with each and every one of you, see how we can be able to work together as a team. So my role is pretty much key to making sure that you stay healthy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. There goes Zero Hunger. And a lot of the work we do in supporting farmers to look at improved varieties, agricultural biotechnologies, focuses a lot on the Zero Hunger goal. The next one, there she is. The lady of the moment, climate action. You are welcome. Hi. Yes, you're welcome.
Hi, my name is Rachel, but for the next 3 days you can call me Climate Action, all right? I hope I do resemble the board right there.
She's over there.
Or there.
Yeah.
Do I? Oh, I do? Thank you very much. So my name is Climate Action, and with the wise story of the late Professor Wangari Maathai, the hummingbird story. The hummingbird decided to do what it could do when the animals watched helplessly while the forest went down into flames. So what does this story teach each and every one of us? It is that do what you can do, whatever you can, with the little knowledge, with the little power that you have. Let us communicate. Let us preach climate action. Let us preach to keep the climate and to preach our SDGs. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. And then it's quality education. Is it quality education? Where is she? Okay. Good health and well-being. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nashipae, but today you can call me Good Health and Well-Being. Health is wealth. We all believe that. And with the climate change, so much is happening. But the main goal for us is to lower mortality rates, so we cover all ages, basically from childbirth to old age, correct? And then with the climate change, there are communicable diseases. Let's talk about COVID. What happened? So it's basically ensuring there are vaccines, and again, for all ages. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, then we have, if you come up on stage, we have affordable and clean energy, because if we don't have energy, we can't do a lot. So he is representing affordable and clean energy.
Hello, everyone. My name is Major Che, but you can call me Super Solar today. I represent clean and affordable energy. As we know, energy is everywhere and everything, and there's a conglomerate of oil and petroleum. But as we grow into the future and we innovate, we must get cleaner and more sustainable, renewable energy. And that's what I'm here today to do. So, thank you.
Thank you. So we hope you can have fun with that. We're going to have some kids coming around, so it helps us to interact with them today, tomorrow, and the day after. All right, I think that's it on my segment, and I'll hand over to the MC.
Just before you leave, how about we get a picture with all the superheroes on stage with Dr. Sheila, right? Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. Let's strike a pose. Oh, we balance it off? Okay. All right, a goofy one, a goofy one. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Asanteni sana, our superheroes, for bringing to life some of the things that we're championing here and pushing for. And I mean, this just goes to show that as Africa, I know the rest of the world and the global north has figured out quite a few ways of having this conversation, but we need to have this conversation in our own way, in a way that we understand. Great. Like I said earlier on, we've been talking about, the whole coexistent question and how do we coexist while still protect the planet and move forward. And a lot of focus today will be on food production and farmers, and we already had a very wonderful scene setter out of Bangladesh. But at this point, I'd like to bring on stage Mr. Maurice Mbaya, who is from the Kwaki Creatives, to give us a sense of what this is all about. Maurice.
How many of you relate to that song? Okay, we're going to talk about what it means, but ideally, for those who do not understand Swahili, the song says, farmers, please up your game, because you are the backbone, you're the one who feeds us so that we can be able to have a productive country. So this song in the 90s was like a wake-up call. And it used to be one that tells the people when they are going to work how you're supposed to feed. There's proteins from the eggs. There is fruits that give you vitamins and all that. So this song is just a precursor about what we are going to talk about. And we are going to talk about National Farmers Day. You've been told my name is Maurice Muchai Baya. I represent Kwawe Creatives, which is a partner agency for Alliance for Science in advocating for National Farmers Day. We are going to play a short reel.
Siku ambayo itatengwa ya mkulima kusherekea, atakuwa hakona furaha sababu anasherekea ile kazi yake. Naye mkulima awe na wakati wake kama Labor Day, ndio tuwe tunainuana, sababu tukikuzana pamoja tutakuwa tukielimiana.
Hiyo siku inafaa itengwe, kwa sababu tuna masiku mengine kama Shujaa Day. Manake kila kitu kinatoka kwa wakulima. Tukisema ikiwa ni chakula kinatoka kwa wakulima, hakuna mtu ambaye anafanya chochote bila kutoka kwa mkulima. Kwa hivyo siku ya mkulima ni ya muhimu sana kwetu wakulima.
Gathering them in such a meeting, a Farmers Day, the voices of the farmers will be amplified, such how they will entice others also to join them.
Okay, so everybody here is a consumer. From when you wake up to when you go to sleep, you consume food, or rather you interact with a farm product. So the reason why we want to advocate for this in Kenya is like the voice of the farmer is not so hard. The voice of the farmer is yet to get an amplification in such a way that it is recognized. Because, like for example, I think during Labor Day, we only take Labor Day to be for the civil servants and the people who are formally employed. So I'll just take you through what we have been doing over the last 2 months, especially engaging farmers and trying to have this voice coming from their end. Yes. So for the last 2 months, we have gone to different parts of Kenya. We have started in the region of Kitui Lower Eastern. We have looked at how we are going to engage these farmers in trying to bring this conversation to a national level. So what we want to do, we want to have an acknowledgement of the immense contribution that farmers make in our country, in Kenya. And why do we want to do this? We want to celebrate the farmers who are who are the unsung heroes and work relentlessly to put food on our table. Yes, and how? We are going to start through the regions. We are going to start through the low points of engagements and speak the farmers' language. That is why we're actually starting by using radio and vernacular radio. So this is just a brief situation analysis of what we have started and what we have done on the June 29th. We went to Kitui in partnership with EcoSeed, who are also in the room, and we managed to have a farmers' engagement with those who have already taken up biotechnology of BT cotton. So the regions we have rolled out the campaign, we started with Kitui, we are going next to Kirinyaga, we are going to Uasin Gishu, which is the breadbasket of food baskets of our country. And through impactful media, we are using community radio. For the Lower Eastern, for example, we used Mbaitu FM. For Kirinyaga, we are currently on Kameme FM, if you can listen. And we are also engaging farmers in those radio stations who already have conversations about the significance of how we should bring this voice to be heard. So these are the kind of results that we've been able to get. We've been getting advocacy for the National Farmers' Day. We have reached 2.9 million people or impressions on people on radio through the different communities, and these are the impressions that we managed to get on the socials. So young people have been getting into the conversation on the socials, and they've been giving their own ideas and how we can be able to adapt this in Kenya. We are looking ahead to roll out in other regions. We have the same exercise such as Kakamega, Kisumu, and we want to educate and empower more farmers within the different regions through the engagements. So wherever we go, we want the voice to come from the farmers' level. We don't push it to be heard like it's being imposed upon them. But farmers, peer-to-peer endorsement of farmers is what makes them feel they are recognized. For example, I am a farmer. What do I want to do if I have lesser produce this year? I want to learn. What will this Forum of National Farmers' Day do? It will bring together farmers from different regions, both crop and livestock, to be able to advocate. Because 80%, there's a recent survey that was published in the Daily Nation, 80% of Kenyans buy food every day. So if we buy food and we fail to see that significance of the farmers, then it means that we are missing the point. Yeah? So that's why we want to bring this in a very impactful way. What do we want to do also next? We want to involve the stakeholders. We want to involve all the partners that have to do with farming and agriculture so that we can be able to bring this forward as impact. We've been having ASK shows that are happening in different counties, but what do they achieve at the end of the day? What is achieved in the next 1 year? What will we have that is addressed? In Ghana, for example, they have this National Farmers' Day that they have been celebrating over the last 30 years, which is taken to the metropolis. The metropolis is similar to what we have in Kenya as districts. So they have competitions of different farmers from different backgrounds who are, like the way they bring the most fattened heifer, they bring the best crop or the tomato that is the biggest, but what is done from that point is what we do not have here. You come, you display, and then next year you come and display again. So what they do in Ghana is actually they empower. They empower the farmers who have the best produce, and they are able to take the best farming practices that are going to be adapted because of what is happening as far as climate change. So we would like everybody to join this movement. We have a centralized communication for all partners that is currently ongoing. And through the forums that we are partnering with EcoSeed and other partner organizations, we want to have a farmer engagement, which is now going to come from the lowest level of the grassroots, and it can be picked. We hope that it can be lobbied and get to a point where the national level is going to take it up. And countrywide recognition and participation. That is why we're going to Kisumu, Kakamega, we are in Kirinyaga. We'd like this even to be taken to a point of people adapting the best farming practices according to the environment and the soil type of where they are. So I think we've seen the different testimonials that have come from the farmers and how we are going to advocate for this. And I'd like everybody to join this movement as we are trying to take this to the next level. Thank you.
Great, Maurice, before you leave, obviously I have a set of questions for you. So this is very interesting, and just the recognition that farmers would have and that sort of thing. But also when you're playing that, we saw a lot of the faces of the farmers. We didn't see any young people, and we didn't see any young women. Is that part of the things you're chasing? And how do you ensure that, like we're talking about inclusivity, we have all the voices here?
Okay, so young people are the future of everything that is going to happen. And through the social engagements that we've been having, and especially on radio and on the campaign that we've been implementing, the highest feedback that is coming is actually from the young people. The young people want to be involved, and this empowerment is what we would like to be taken to the next level, because opportunities that are given to young people, especially post-school, is that of going to look for a job. Why don't you get this opportunity? Because you've been empowered on how you can take, say, that small farm of yours and get the best produce out of it. So young people want to be involved, but the advocacy that we are trying to bring forth is the platform that we are going to have these people talk through. This cannot be talked about on Labor Day, right? It cannot be talked about on Jamhuri Day. But if there's a Farmers' Day, then the young people are able to engage in the different counties.
Okay, great. Another thing, you talked about your engagement and the fact that you've reached about 2.9 million people. Give us a sense of this demographic and how then it contributes to your bigger goal.
We have communities, out of these 2.9 million people, we have communities in the different regions that we've gone. Say Kitui, for the example, Lower Eastern, and now we are going to Kirinyaga. So the aggregation of that voice and it going upwards is how we intend for it to be picked up, right? Because if the farmers meet together, say there's going to be a Kitui Farmers' Day, if they come together, what is said there is going to be amplified in a different county. People who are, say, normal pastoralists can be able to take up crop farming, see. So we are trying to have this conversation in a way that it is more educative and more involving.
Great. We'll leave it there, Maurice. Round of applause for Maurice. We'd like to take this conversation a little bit forward, but before that, I'd like you to train your eyes on the screens for a video that will sort of set the scene for what's coming up next. Okay. Is the video coming up? Today? Soon? Before we get that video, I mean, obviously, Maurice, what you've talked about has provoked a lot of thoughts, and there are lots of farmers in the room. If you're new to Kenya, in Kenya we have two main types of farmers. We've got the real farmers and the mobile phone farmers, yeah? So the mobile phone farmers are people like you and me in the cities who will just be calling and sending money for fertilizer and seeds and labor, and then hopefully they'll pray for a harvest. And then there's the real farmers who actually go on ground and produce something. But at the end of the day, all these people contribute to food production in this country, and the fact that farming continues to contribute vastly as far as the job creation is concerned. There were questions that I saw from this side. I'll just come to you. If you want Maurice to answer, or if you want somebody from the Alliance to answer, just one question, tell us where you are, and go for it.
Thank you. My question goes to Maurice. After presentation, I've seen what he has done and what the organization is doing. For any organization or any given project to take place, as we have been seeing, even from the first presenter, the data is very much important. I've not seen the data in the presentation. And also the goal. What is the goal of this organization? I've not also seen the aspect of science in this program that you are carrying out. There's no collaboration. You are just moving from counties to counties. We don't know where you are heading to. Another thing is that as you do this, I have not seen the aspect of capacity building.
Let him respond to the first question first,
okay,
so that we don't lose them, right? Remind me your name?
Engineer Robert Juma Wamalwa.
Okay. Yep. Maurice, you have a very difficult question from Engineer Juma, and then Dr. Sheila will come to you. But because we are also setting up, could you allow us to move to this part of the stage? Great.
To answer your question, number one, the farmers that we are engaging are those who have already adapted biotechnology. So when we went to Kitui, we engaged farmers who have already adapted BTI cotton. And we are going to those other counties where biotechnology has been adapted by these farmers. Now, the progressive way we are doing this is that smart farming practices are being taken up by farmers because of what we are talking about today, climate change, right? So what you're saying that there is a gap is actually no gap. We are going to engage farmers so that they can take up these practices that are smart climate farming methods. Yeah.
There was a question also about the data, right?
Yes, data.
Could you just talk to us through, actually, there's a, Dr. Sheila has some answers for you, then I'll come back. Maurice, just stay there. All the hard questions are coming to you.
Yes, thank you for that. I understand, if you're not familiar with the Alliance for Science, we're an organization that will be 10 years old next year, and we're a science communication organization. So we have been working with farmers, groups, and research institutions, the Africa Agricultural Technology Foundation, AATF, all the organizations in ILRI, OFAB, CalRO. We work closely with CalRO. So working with scientists is at the core of our mandate. That's our core community. So this is actually an outreach. But what we found, because we were not engaging farmers in their languages, in their spaces, it was becoming difficult to translate the science in a way that's meaningful. So scientists spend a lot of time producing improved varieties, drought tolerance, water tolerant, all of those in Kenya. So Kenyan scientists have invested hundreds of millions in these improved varieties, hybrid rice, but then the farmers don't know, why should I use this seed, etc. So what you are finding, especially in Kirinyaga, we had a few farmers who were working with IcoSeeds, coordinated to do demonstration farms in BT cotton. And so they would bring other farmers to explain why they were using these varieties of seeds, so that they would understand the difference between improved varieties of seeds. But most of that interaction is done in English. And it depends on which farmers show up. And we get a good number. ICOC do a wonderful job in bringing 200 or 300 farmers to the activations we have on demonstration farms. But what we wanted to do was to meet the farmer where he is, before he goes to the farm. When he comes back, he normally listens to the radio in his own language and begin to share some of our work. So many of the farmers we're engaging with are part of our community anyway in terms of the science and uptake of agricultural biotechnology. But what we want, and so they tell us what their challenges are, but they tend not to tell others. And we've been the middlemen in terms of communication. And we don't want to do that anymore. We want them to self-advocate. So we decided to create channels where they could self-advocate in their own languages, so that it wouldn't be us translating the meaning in whatever context, and they could add it within their own context. So what you've seen is a campaign that simply creates that space. And we don't want to be the voice of that space, but we want to create it. And going forward, they will tell us what they need, and we will work with policymakers and scientists to hopefully bridge the gap.
Thank you, Dr. Sheila, for the clarification. Do we have one last question? Dr. Juma, I know you had a few. Just allow me to give a chance to anyone else who wants to touch on the question of farmers. Great.
Not really to touch on the question of farmers, but we have a guest here from the other team, from upstairs, from the Children's Trust, who wants to say something.
Can I give them a chance so that we don't lose the train of thought on the farmers bit? Sure. I promise. Any thought on farmers before? Yes. Are you a farmer? Okay, what do you grow?
Hi, my name is Daniel, and I'm currently running an aggregator startup. Currently, we have 2,500 farmers in Murang'a County, and the number is expected to be growing to 4,000 actually by the end of this month. My main thing is actually to see how we can partner actually with the organization that is actually between Alliance for Science and Quirky Creatives. So our farmers are ready. We enable them by giving them certified seeds and also an extension service, and they are growing actually for exports. So I can say that there is an opportunity for the youth. I'm a youth, and I'm very passionate about this. And I believe, as Aliko Dangote says, the future of Africa is through agribusiness. And our main dream is to grow to 8 million farmers. So we're looking actually to partner actually with Alliance for Science, and we see what we can do actually concerning farmers. Thank you.
Remind us the name of your organization.
It's called Two Stock Growers. So our website actually, we are doing some building up, but I'll share actually the main website after this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think that's what we're looking for. First, there's an opportunity for collaboration. So you've seen the young man. If you're young, if you feel young, and you'd want to partner with these spaces, that's really the idea. And it's great to know that young people are also taking up these spaces. Susan Boyd, you had a comment? Okay.
Thank you very much. I just want to make a comment regarding the interest of youth in farming. And I think as the older generation, we need to consider the issues around ownership of land. The young people are interested, but what we have practiced is agriculture. We need to change to agribusiness. So in our succession planning, we need to be able to empower the youth with the resources, and the tool for farming is land. Now, the youth don't own the land. It is normally owned by their parents, or it's generational wealth. So I think the challenge here is also to the older generation to learn to plan for succession and that transition, and empower the youth to actually engage in agribusiness. Thank you very much.
Great. So I'm seeing lots of thoughts. So I have a deal for you. How about I afford you a chance to have all those questions responded to by a panel? Right? Makes sense? Great. This conversation is very important. This conversation is very important because in such spaces, the voices of doers and people on the ground tend to get lost. And it was very refreshing to hear of young farmers who are saying, we're actually doing this, we're trying to grow our numbers, and this is happening. But also, we are in tune to the reality that it's not all level. Like what Ms. Boyd mentioned, entry into these spaces is difficult for not just young people, but also vulnerable groups of people. And so we'll be spending the next few moments to just try and wrap our minds around the question of how do we make the voices of our farmers much bigger? Because this is at the heart of inclusion. And since we're talking about inclusion, we talk about the Children's Climate Summit that is happening, which is really the main event of the Africa Climate Summit. Please come up, please come up, please come up. Tell us your name and what's your persuasion and why you decided to add your voice to this conversation of the African Climate Summit. Please, let's give her a round of applause. She'll probably be the only person who'll be alive when you are seeing the gains of what you're fighting for today.
Hello. Hi. So in Maasai, when I say, enda soba borgin, you say Eva. Say Eva. Enda soba borgin. Nice. So,
tell us your name and what's your persuasion about you adding your voice to this conversation about the planet.
Okay, my name is Peace Newangan, and I am from Kajiado County. I school at Moigal Sisinya. I am very delighted to be here. This is among the places I never thought I would reach, but who is God, huh? So I'm very excited to be here, and I am a champion. A what? A champion. So currently I am advocating for climate change, and I am also advocating against harmful practices for the pastoral communities. At least clap for me, I feel encouraged. So yes, I'm very happy. What else?
What do you see is the role of other young people like yourselves in this movement?
Okay, so I believe that we also have a voice, and For long, we had been silenced. We did not have platforms whereby we could share our views, whereby we could say what we feel about your decisions, you adults. But right now, there is a platform, and we are glad because the platform has been raised. And right now, we are really enjoying. I wish you guys could see the climate. The Children's Summit, it was very good. The children were free. You know, in the absence of adults, our voice is louder.
Excellent. Before you leave, any young champions, anyone about below 25? Below 25, for real. Michael, put your hand down. Anyone below 25, please stand up. Please stand up. Anyone below 25? If you feel like you're below 25, I'll give you a chance next. Anyone below 25? Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a proper round of applause to the future and for them allowing themselves to be part of these conversations. Thank you so much. Asante sana. Okay. Great. Yes, please clap for her. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Right. And just back to the conversation that I promised, and I mentioned that there's a lot of questions, concerns, contributions that have come through, and we're saying, how about we spend a few more moments to just wrap our minds around the question of how to give the voices of our farmers and make it louder. And some of the issues that have been teased here already, we'll be spending a bit more time to speak to that. And so at this point, I'd like to introduce to you a panel that will be looking at the question of, how then do we enhance the role of farmers in this conversation? This conversation will be moderated by the Honorable Michael Onyango, Deputy Executive Director, Alliance for Science. Michael, please. Joining Michael on stage would be Honorable Jacqueline Coyne, Resilience Ambassador and for Alliance for Science and former County Minister for Agriculture and Livestock for Kajiado County in Kenya. Also joining us will be Patrick Muriuki from the Alliance for Science Fellow and the Managing Director at EcoSeed and a representative for, he'll tell us a little bit about what EcoSeed is and what they stand for. Let's give him a round of applause. We will have back on stage Kwawi Creatives. I think this will be represented by Maurice. Is Maurice? You had questions, I've made him run away. Omondi, you could step up for Maurice, please. Thank you. Also joining us on stage is Blessed Silawe, who's the director, Food Secure Africa from Zambia. We already had some very good thoughts from Arif Hussein. If Arif, you're still in the house, sorry. Sadiq is taking his place. Thank you so much. So Sadiq will be coming up to just give us that global sense. And I think this is very important because as much as we're trying to figure out local, continental, it's very great to have a global sense of this. Okay, we are adding another chair, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, also joining us will be Sia Sokomani, who's a farmer first, and an environmentalist and green entrepreneur from South Africa. Sia, welcome on stage. Sorry, Sia, in Africa, we usually just add the guests from the farthest. We add them the last. That's what we do. So thank you so much, guys. Michael will run this conversation. After that, he'll afford you a chance to raise your questions. So if you do need, if you have some thoughts, please put them down. We'll give you a chance to respond to that. We have pens and notebooks. If you do need one, I'm happy to bring it over to you. Michael, karibu.
Thank you very much, Bonnie. And great, and welcome to our first panel discussion of the summit and of the day. Very excited to be here. We actually have, I don't know where Blessed is. I wish she was here. Okay, sorry, she's another function, so that is fine. So not a problem at all. But let me welcome all my panelists. And because we want to try and get as much as possible out of them, what I will do is that I will first of all just ask them to each very, very briefly just introduce themselves. Just tell us your name, your organization, and what you do, and then we'll get into the other details later on. So if I may now default to the furthest country, which is invited last. Sia, if you could please start.
Hello. My name is Siabulela Sokomani from the Great South Africa, and I represent Nguni Nursery. We are an indigenous native tree nursery that seeks to, soften the gap of plant availability, plant material availability, seed availability. We also have about 400 acres of our own reforestation project that has an in-house nursery that seeks to have quality plant material produced in-house so that we can have vibrant ecological restoration and reforestation projects in South Africa.
Thank you and welcome to the panel. Patrick.
Thank you, Mr. Michael. My name is Patrick Gitari Muriuki. I'm an Alliance for Science Fellow, the first cohort, 2015. And I'm the managing director of ICOSEED. ICOSEED is a non-governmental organization that is working in 17 counties in this country. And the activities that we are working on are, one, amplifying the work of hybrid rice, especially in Kirinyaga, Muranga, and some parts of Embu. Two, we are doing a school feeding program where we help school-going children to produce their own fruits and vegetables and plant trees to moderate climate change matters. And three, very important, supporting bananas and maize farmers in most of the counties that I've mentioned. And four, very important, working with farmers to adopt BT cotton. And I can see one of our farmers around, I'm happy. So we are working in those activities, and we are very happy to work with the communities, create impact. Our interest is to create lasting impact at the grassroots. Thank you.
Thank you. Our resilience envoy and ambassador.
Thank you. My name is Jacqueline Coin. I am the resilience ambassador for the Alliance for Science. Before I joined them, I was the county minister, equal to federal government, for agriculture and food security in the county government of Kajiado. I walked farmers through a 4-year-long drought, and we actively worked with farmers, special focus on women and youth farmer groups, in helping them adopt technologies that were going to help them adapt to the changes of climate. So basically, that's who I am. And I'm a farmer in my own right. Thank you.
Thank you. And for some context, Kajiado is the same size as Sweden and bigger than Rwanda. Sadiq, over to you.
Hello, everyone. So you have already know about Farming Future Bangladesh. So this is Sadiq Uddin. I'm working with Farming Future Bangladesh as a project management specialist. So what Farming Future Bangladesh do actually is creating an enabling environment for accepting the frontier technology, the cutting-edge technology, so that we can disseminate it or making an extension effort so that people from grassroots can avail it and they can take the benefits of it for the food security and nutrition security to our population. And I'm representing Bangladesh and also the global south of Asia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sadiq. Paul?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul Omondi. I'm the lead partner with Kwawi Creatives, the organization currently in charge with implementing the National Farmers Campaign in the Global South for the Alliance. I can also say Bonnie talked about two sets of farmers, the ones who actually are on the ground, and the telephone ones who plant and wait for the rain and pray. I think I belong to the second group. So I'm a farmer by right. So yes, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ren, thank you, Paul. So we're truly inclusive. We've got the telephone farmer and we've got the actual farmers on board. So let me go straight into a bit of background why we are here. So earlier on this year, on May 28th, as the Alliance for Science, on May 28th happens to be World Hunger Day. So we decided to launch a campaign across 7 different countries, and this was in Asia, Latin America and Africa, in order to drive a campaign that would get countries to recognize farmers for the work that they do. Now, as you normally heard, it's said that a doctor, you may need a doctor once or twice a year, but you need a farmer 3 times a day. So that's why this panel is here, and we're here to ensure and unpack why a National Farmers campaign, a National Farmers Day would be important, especially for us in the Global South, where for a very, very long time, we have not realized, well, not all of us have realized just how important food is. And to set the stage, let me put it forward and say that whoever controls your food controls you and controls your economy. And with those opening words, I think I'm just going to go back. First of all, I'll go to Sadiq. Sadiq, tell us about your National Farmers Day. What did you do? What happened? And how has that been received?
So, thank you very much. I think this was kind of like a bit new for us because throughout our activities, we didn't have that kind of like Farmers Day event in our country. So we are lagging behind some kind of, recognize their efforts and their contribution to our economy. It's not about not only the economy, because we are talking about the food security and nutrition security, and they are providing us. But we are not like giving them any kind of heed or any kind of like importance. We are like taking the resources or the production they're making, and we are not giving them any importance or any recognition. So after a thoughtful, like initiatives from the Alliance for Science, we initiated that particular, Farmers Day event in a grassroots level, not in like country, and not in like in a city or urban areas. So we went to the like, grassroots, and we invited like 500 farmers. So we actually arranged that Farmers Day event so that we can see how they feel to get recognized. And we found that they are so thrilled. And we invited also some policymakers, some of the local government officials, and we introduced them. And the good thing happened when actually we make them the farmers as a chief guest, as a special guest, because this is not a common phenomena in our country. Because every event we actually consider the political leaders or the local leaders as the chief guests and special guests. But for that particular event, we actually recognized them and we honored them with their contribution in that particular area. So it actually some kinds of paradigm shift of our recognizing those particular farmers. And it helps to understand that what kind of contributions they are making to our economy. And since we are working for an enabling environment, without their contribution and their acceptability of the frontier technology we are talking about and we are promoting, that was really important. So through that National Farmers Day event, we actually promoted the Farm Future Bangladesh, the Alliance for Science's goals, what we are actually trying to make an impact in the country through honoring them. So that was a very successful event because people from all walks of life, not from the farmers, people from all walks of life, they actually joined the event and they praised that this kind of event is really necessary for a country like Bangladesh, because during COVID, everything was stopped, but their efforts, their production was ongoing, in progress, and because of that, we actually ensured the food security to some extent. So that actually happened, and we found that National Farmer Day event is really one of its kind, and we really want to continue the journey.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sadiq. Sia, I want to come to you, and I want to connect a little bit with the young people. You don't look fairly, you're not that old. You're fairly young, with due respect. And are you crazy? Farming? It is boring. There's nothing exciting about it. Are you mad? Why have you gone into this mad thing of farming? And why is it important?
To frankly answer your question, yes, I am mad. And they say you must not live your life with regrets, right? But I have one regret in my life, is not to be actively doing what I'm doing now, earlier on in my 20s. I may look young, but I'm almost 40 now. I wasted my 20s, just chasing and just working, do you understand? But not having a meaningful social responsibility with my work for my community and my country. So that message actually goes to the young people that are here today, to say that you don't want to be nearly 40 and having regrets of not having worked the land of your forefathers, right? I'll make 2 examples of an initiative that is here on the African continent, which is the AFR 100, which is a country-led effort that seeks to restore land degradation by 2030. And out of that, if we do a quick maths, this is why I grow trees. I was not quite good at maths, but this is a simple math equation where if you've got 100 million hectares of land that has been committed by 33 countries on the continent, which means you will need plus minus, let's have an average of 500 plants per hectare. That also involve on-the-ground farmers, that involves agroforestry, that involves tree planting initiatives, fruits, businesses, and all of that. So if you multiply that by the 12 years that this period that we need to be reaching by 2030, when it started, we're really going to be needing an access of about 55 billion plant material. So if it was seedlings, tree seedlings, we would need 55 billion trees to achieve that. So just to make a context of that, it means that we will need 4.6 billion plants and trees per year. It means that we will need 382 million plants per month for us to achieve that. But where are these plants and trees coming from? Because we don't have all these massive plant production nurseries on the continent that can actually cater to that. This is then bringing it back to the youth again. There's an opportunity for us as young people to see entrepreneurial opportunities within that space. And I'm just talking about one call. I'm not talking about the Great Green Wall. I'm not talking about any other calls that are out there that also need some form of plant material or farmers' initiatives.
What's that call again? Can you be very specific about it so they can pick it up and people can actually understand what is it again?
Okay, I'll stand up. That call for the African youth, for the African young people, is entrepreneurial opportunities within climate change that will have economic benefits for you. I'm not talking about NGOs where you get stipends so that you can buy radios that you don't need. I'm talking about entrepreneurial opportunities where you can have money in your pocket, make financial decisions about what you can do with that money, whether you want to go to school, whether you want to improve your farm, or buy more land. That's the call.
So that's one action point already achieved in our climate action zone before lunchtime. So already have one action point, okay? I want to now turn to our resilience envoy, Jacqueline Cohen. You know, we hear people are talking about trees. Are trees important? And you said over the last 4 years, you were battling with drought. And not to say that right now, for this region and in Kenya, for the next 4 months, we have now been told that we're expecting extraordinary rains. Give us some background whether what Sia has just said is actually important, and if it has affected your communities where you worked before, and whether there's actually truth to that.
Thank you. And yes, and I loved the fact that he had to stand up to make this call. I think trees deserve so much. And I've had many people refer to Professor Wangari Maathai. And I think we could forget certain presidents of Kenya, but we will never forget the professor. Why? Because of the work that she did with the environment. And I think every leader that is worth their salt should just be thinking about the environment. Why do I say this? Actually, now people say that Kenya went through the more arid communities of Kenya, particularly, because I know that the whole of the Horn of Africa, has been going through this. They say that they went through a drought, but I'll tell you that the long rains in Kenya, the ones that come in March and April, failed as well. They were not sufficient. So farmers did not harvest enough. And so they are right back, to battling with a drought. Little conversations are beginning here and there, but we expect that very soon we might, if we do not do much, might just bounce back to the issues of relief. But I'll tell you that issues of climate change can cause problems in 3 ways. One, challenges in food security. When farmers do not produce, all of us know that there will be scarcity of food, and therefore the prices of food will go high. Every time you hear a country importing food, that tells you that it's going to be much more expensive than it would have been if the farmers were producing. Number two, the economic challenges that come with it. When farmers are poor, and when you look at the statistics of each country, and I see many countries in the global south, they say that their economies are agricultural economies. If, for example, the population of the farming communities is 50%, and they are affected by climate change, either they do not harvest or they suffer losses, that would tell you that 50% of the population of a country, is sinking into poverty. So this is really what it means. And I would also like to talk about the social, cultural effects of, climate change. For example, a drought, because I would also want to talk about issues of floods and, surging lake waters, or even security issues that emanate from climate change. This morning we go to step into the Children's Pre-Climate Summit, and we listened to a report that said, that was talking about the challenges of young parents and young women when during the IDPs. IDPs are internally displaced persons emanating from issues of climate. And they say that 4 out of 5 of them are young girls and young mothers. And so that tells you that it exposes them to security issues, to molestation, to school dropout, to early pregnancies. And we have, in the more cultural societies, we have fought quite a bit retrogressive cultural practices. But the moment that girls and women are not at home and they are in refuge and poverty, has begun to crop up. Then you'd hear that instead of taking a girl to school, then they would rather marry them off. So really climate change is bigger than all of us think about. In a county called Baringo in Kenya, at some point the waters of Lake Baringo started to surge. And the water increased so much that it actually engulfed a school. And so a school had to move. A health center had to move. Many people, almost a whole division, people had to move out and go upstream and look for, space to live in. Waterborne diseases, schools, in access to education, in access to healthcare. And we could talk about these, there are many examples that we can talk about this. Think about the north of Kenya and the issues they talk about insecurity related to cattle rustling, or fight over pasture and water. This is really war against for scarce resources. Scarce resources caused by what? Climate-related issues. So when we talk about trees and we talk about adaptation to climate, really it touches every aspect of the human life. And therefore, this is a very, very important discussion that all of us in the whole globe should seriously take into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. I want to turn to Patrick. Patrick, Wamalwa, who's sitting here, had earlier on alluded to the very theoretical things that are happening on the radio with the farmers and everybody else. You're a farmer, you're in Kirinyaga, and your area is one of the places in which some of these pilot programs have begun. Are they useful? Can you give us some feedback? Because you've just come in from Kirinyaga, so you tell us from the ground.
Thank you very much, moderator. I would like to say that this matter and the interventions that are being done are very, very useful. I would like to say, for example, that Kitui alone has approximately over 150,000 cotton growing farmers. And a third of them have adopted BT cotton to respond to climate change. For your information, those people who don't understand about BT cotton, it is a cotton that is fitted with the bacillus thuringiensis to enable it give itself protection against the African bollworm that destroys the balls once they have developed. And without it, and I know those cotton farmers who are here can confirm that they were getting very little production, actually less than 400 kilograms from an acre. At the moment, they are producing from 1,000 kilograms and above. BT cotton is also drought tolerant. These are climate change issues. And we know what is happening because of climate change. The issue of drought, the issue of unreliability of rainfall, the issue of rainfall sometimes coming too much, like the El Nino rains that we are expecting. And we have seen farmers trying to diversify their crops. And we know, like I said here 2 weeks, I think it's 2 weeks ago, I said farmers planting trees that, for example, have been developed by youth, grafted by youth, and these are fruit trees. They've planted these fruit trees, especially the avocado, the mangoes, those kind of tree fruits, And you know, when a farmer plants those trees, even if you want to access firewood, you try to get firewood from other crops, but not from the fruit trees, because that's where the farmer is getting food. So as much as the issue of climate change is real, the interventions that farmers are making is helping them. To overcome the climate change challenges. The same with the school-going children that we are supporting to produce their own fruits and vegetables. And I'm happy when I see the lady from Mo Isinya Girls. We have been working in Ibisil as well, in production of fruits and vegetables, and some other schools in the inner parts of Kajiado. And they have been producing their own fruits and vegetables using drip irrigation technology. They may not be able to do greenhouse immediately, but they start with open drip irrigation technology, put the mulch also on the gardens, irrigate in the night so that they conserve as much moisture as it is practically possible, and they are able to produce enough to feed themselves and to take to the market. So in other words, these issues are as real, and they need to be, and more intervention need to be done to reach the larger community, especially the youth, so that the youth, who we are saying are the future of the agriculture in this country and other parts of the world, can also adopt the relevant technologies that are going to make them resilient to climate troubles that come.
So let me give some more context to what Patrick has just said. So earlier on this year in March, in the dead of the drought in this country, when we'd gone on for a drought for about 4 years, we made a trip to Kirinyaga for a field visit. And this picture totally remains ingrained in my mind. So we were going to visit one of the BT cotton farms. And just before we got to that BT cotton farm, there was this man standing beside the road. I remember him very well. He was wearing a blue jacket, and he was absolutely looking hopeless. And we stopped to have a conversation with him. And the saddest thing was that his whole maize crop had dried up. But what was so sad was that next to him was a BT cotton plantation which was thriving. And next to him was a family who was able to take their children to school because they had invested in the right seed, the right plant, through proper information. It's at that point that I remember we hurdling, myself, my other colleague Ake, who's not here in the room, and with Sheila, who's here. And as we spoke to the man, we asked him, why aren't you planting the BT cotton, to help cushion you? But he said he doesn't know about it. But we asked him, so how do you normally get your information? And he said, from the radio station. We asked him which radio stations, and he mentioned them. And straight away, we came back into Nairobi the next day, and we said, what is it that we're not doing properly, and how can we ensure that information gets linked and people on the ground get it? That is my segue into Kwawi. And from then on, we asked Kwawi to come up with a way in which we can ensure that farmers in this country as a start can be able to cushion themselves, because it was so sad that next to each other, one can be able to be not thriving and not surviving, but actually doing well, but right next to them not doing well. So Paul, can you tell us a little bit about what has been happening over the last few months, and what are the kind of feedback that has been coming from the local vernacular stations where we've been running our activities?
All right, thank you, Michael. So first off, after the Kirinyaga visit, or way before it, we were in conversation with the Alliance on plugging in a partner with the capacity to roll out such a campaign in Kenya, for starters. And that's how we came in. So there's a very clear plan, first from the target audience. Who are we speaking to? Because as it were, there's a need. The need was, we sit here in the Radisson Blu, we have lots of conversation, and then we walk out. We've been served good food, but then life continues. But there's a farmer out there who will never hear or will never have the opportunity to be in this room to hear some of these things that we do, the brilliant ones that we talk about. And so we said, for a Kenyan farmer who's not able to be here, how do we start? And then we rolled out this campaign. First of all, we narrowed down to the target audience. We said, this is our farmer. Typically, it's a lady farmer, 35 to 50. You'd assume she's in the countryside. You'd assume she has about 5 kids. And you'd also assume that she's just making it through life. She's just making enough to feed her family, and the little that's left, she can sell it for subsistence. Little money to pay school fees for her kids. So she's just edging through life. So that's, first of all, the target person. Let's talk to her. But then you realize she's not alone. So they have peer-to-peer conversations. Michael talks about one farmer against another, and the only thing that separates those two is a boundary. One is thriving, one is failing. But these two come from the same village, and they don't share. So beyond the radio stations and beyond the vernacular stations, we are also saying, let's have county engagement forums where we go out there and we have one farmer explaining what he does and how he succeeded. So we have piloted this in Kitui, first of all. Well, let me just break it down a little bit.
Can you give some context to what Kitui is? Because a lot of people were not from here in terms of its ecological zones, so people can have an understanding of who they are.
Kitui in Lower Eastern, it's one of the few counties that are considered dry. So what you have is they try to do maize. They're a bit, their soil type is unique. And they also try to do horticulture, but with, additional water supply. So it's not natural rainfall. So there's a lot of complexities around Kitui, but the reason why we went to Kitui, for starters, is that we had a lead there. And our lead there at that point was ICOSEED. So we said, let's not start random. Let's start with a place we know a bit better. And so we went into Kitui. We had a county engagement forum, hugely successful. Some of the footages and the vox pops you see right now are mostly from that forum. But then we also went into the vernacular station, and in this case we went to Mbaitu, talked to them. The feedback was great, because what we had was farmers saying, who will listen to us? Who will we tell our issues? And so Kitui was the first county that we went to. The plan is to do 5 pilot counties. So there's Kitui, there's Kirinyaga, there's Kisumu, there's Kakamega, and there's Eldoret. Pretty much to cover what we call a few food basket areas. But to pilot this thing and see how it goes. And we are also borrowing a lot from our friends in Bangladesh who have successfully run this thing and made it successful. So so that's how it works. Michael, I think what's important to us at this point is, can the information reach the farmer? Can what we are discussing at high levels reach the farmer? Can they also come back and tell us what they feel? And the reason, again, why you heard that song play when Maurice was coming to do his presentation was that nostalgic feeling of the 90s. At some point in the history of this country, we had somebody who called himself Mkulima #1, and you guys know who that was. And he made it very clear that a farmer is a very big part of the ecosystem. But over time, with maybe another past 20 years, that has been eroded and priorities have shifted. But as priorities shift from farmer to consumption, which is what, again, is happening in all these big hotels, there's the climate change happening, and it's moving very fast. So the climate is degradation of the climate, but on the opposite side, the farmer who's producing or needs to do smart stuff is not being empowered with information and with everything else to produce. So yes, so our little small action, even at this summit, is to ensure we plug that hole between the farmer and information, and also to ensure they are actually appreciated for the thing they do. I hope I've answered you, Michael.
Thank you. Jackson, I want to come back to you. So anybody who is not from Kenya, when people talk about Kenya, the first impression that comes to your mind is the Maasais. Yes or no? Thank you. So Jackson is actually from the Ma community, and they're basically pastoralists. So their main food is actually milk, blood, yes, and then meat occasionally. But Jacqueline, so we've said all these things. In the 4 years when you had this drought, how did your community and what did you do to ensure that these climatic conditions and changes that have been so harsh, how did you make sure that your community remained resilient? Can you give us some insights into what has changed and what happened when I've given the context of who it is and what it is that Maasais normally eat and who you are?
Thank you, Michael. One of the things that we seek to do was to deal with food taboos, because food taboos are a serious impediment towards nutrition. It is, some of the African communities eat what is culturally right. For example, if they are a maize-producing community, then their staple food is maize. And in Kenya, when there is no maize, actually, we say there is no food. However much cassava is rotting in our farms, we insist and say there is no food. In my community, they would say there is no food, but actually what is not available is beef. But fish is available, beans are available, vegetables are available, chicken is available. And so we moved towards talking the communities into seeing the other foods that they actually don't produce, and then actually walk them into producing those foods. And I would like to tell you that in a highly cultural community, we now have more than 300 fish farmers who produce fish in ponds. They not only eat the fish, but they also trade in the fish. Vegetable farming, primarily for the women. And if you keep a big animal like a cow, a chicken is very small. And so you don't see it as wealth. You don't see it, as investment. And these were the things that we moved towards training our people to see. And we actually guided women and specifically trained them towards producing and, taking poultry as a serious business. And one of those things we told them is, for example, if a child is sent back from school to buy a pencil, so I would ask the women, would you sell a cow to buy a pencil? And they would say no. So I told them, if you had, say, a chicken, and the chicken has laid an egg, what would be commensurate to the price of a pencil? They would say an egg. So I told them, yeah, now look, You would have gone to waste your cow for no apparent reason, and yet there are ways you can easily get what you need. And so dealing with food taboo is one of those things that, as the communities of the Global South, we must seek, to address. Because then from there, we will see food for what it is. We would stop putting those socio-cultural barriers on food. Then I think as I listen to my fellow panelists, I think the conversation here is about precision agriculture. It's about, throwing science into farming. I think this is what is coming, this is where the discussion is leading. And therefore, be it seed-tolerant seed, be it soil testing technologies, be it issues of minimal tillage and conservation of moisture within the soil, be it pest resistance seed, as my brother has been, it is precision agriculture. And the question has been asked, how do we get this information to the farming communities? I think as we go towards the end of this summit, this is the big question that we should ask, because then that is what stands between farmers and adaptation to climate issues. Thank you.
So the other action point from this panel is precision agriculture and getting information to communities across the rural communities. We said before, we are the climate action zone. We're not here just to talk. We're here to ensure that we have outcomes that we can go ahead and practice. It's now my time to open it up to the audience so we can get some queries or comments that you may have. I will ask that kindly just one question or one comment per person so that we can involve as much people as possible. And I'll ask, can my people please stand up so that we can get Aaron, or is it Steph, or people? Yes, please have the microphone with you so you can come forward. There's a gentleman here that has a question. So please introduce your name, where you're from, and your question. Microphone, please. Thank you. And so could I get, please come, there's a gentleman here. Please stand up, sir. Could you just stand up? We'll come to the lady next after that gentleman.
Thank you, Mike. It's long since I was called a gentleman. My name is Martin Olo. I run an innovation maker space called Fab Lab Winam, based in Kisumu. My question is, for the better part of our lives in Fab Lab, we've been looking at what are the points that a makerspace can hold in climate change. And now, my question now is, in agriculture, how much research or involvement has been made in mechanization of farming? Thank you.
Okay, so I will turn that question to Patrick, but before he answers that, the lady, madam.
Thank you for referring to me as madam. It's wonderful. I am the co-founder and director of the first children's museum in Kenya, the Educational Park. I'm also a farmer. My question is on extension services. My background is in extension agriculture, so I really want to know what has happened to this service. It doesn't seem to exist, and yet we're talking about information to farmers. Where is it and what is the future?
So what I will do is I'll actually give that question to Sia, because I'd like to have some global perspective about the things that we're doing, despite the fact that it may be, so we can just show them that some of the things, if maybe other geographies and locations have solutions that we may not be reflective of. So let's answer those two first. So please go ahead.
Thank you, Michael. The question about mechanization, it is all at different levels. A lot of research has been done. We know, right from the cultural way of mechanizing, the basic way of mechanizing, Because when you are using a jembe, you are using a better tool than when you are using the stick to do the large tillage. And then from the jembe to small tractors, to bigger tractors.
A jembe is a hoe.
A jembe is a hoe. Yeah. So from the hoe to a small tractor to a bigger tractor, and so on and so forth. I would like to say, for example, in rice, there is a lot of mechanization. Right now, harvesting is even done using combine harvesters. There are small planting machines to do the planting, and even when preparing the land, you can put a small tractor in, or you can put a big tractor in. The land is done in time. And this is happening along the entire value chain. Earlier on, people used to beat the rice with a mortar and a pestle until you get enough to feed your family. But there was not, that process was not making enough to go to the market. Yeah? So technology has changed. There are small milling plants, and there are even big milling plants. So this is, for example, in rice. So I would like to say that mechanization is at different levels with the different crops. And I want to thank our CARO, the Kenya Agriculture and Livestock Research Organization. They have done a lot of work for various research activities, including machines to do some fiber extraction from banana stems, among many, many things, and making of products. So I would like to say here that it depends on what you want. And because I'm an agriculturist by profession, and with the help of researchers who are here, yeah, and other scientists, we may not be able to speak about mechanization of all the crops, but I would like us to speak one-on-one on those kind of questions. But I would like to say that mechanization is there in this country at different levels for different crops, and it is upon a farmer now, based on his capacity, to go for the right kind of mechanization. We can be able to advise on that, because we have been working on several value chains.
Thank you. Sia, on the matter of extension services.
Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity. And ma'am, thank you for that question. Because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an eco-entrepreneur, and I believe that, first of all, before we can look to government official extension officers who are employed, an employed person is going to do employment things, right? And they've got hours for them to do those employment things. So it goes then beyond you, because you're a farmer, and being a farmer and being a grower is a 24-hour thing, because a pipe can burst at 1 a.m. or 3 a.m., it's got to be you who's out there. So as much as we have lost quite a lot of governmental, agricultural things that were there in the past, like extension officers, which in South Africa, the Department of Agricultural Services has got quite a lot of, especially in the Western Cape. And now that we're in the Eastern Cape, we have recently, about a month ago, had an extension officer come to our farm for the first time, and we've been trying for a year, right? Because there are so many other farmers there. So I'm trying to paint a picture here so that there isn't this Jesus is coming type of scenario when it comes to extension officers. It has to be you taking the initiative and collaborate with the government and be the one that is, the one that needs help. The extension officer has got a salary, right? So those persons are covered already. So as a farmer, as a person on the ground, you've got to take the initiative. I think Deep South, as entrepreneurs, green entrepreneurs, we are at a privilege of, and I think in Kenya, it's one of the few countries on the continent where you can go to each and every government department and ask for clarity for things. And you can go back home and sleep. In other countries on the continent, you can end up in other places, right? So what I'm trying to say is that extension officers are now our YouTube. Extension officers are now our Alliance for Science. where there is science-based solutions. There is, crop production examples that have been done in Bangladesh, have been done in South Africa, where you can actually have that information at the palm of your hand with your phone. So we need those programs to be back, but our governments have not the budgets to actually have these things rolled out for every farmer. So what I'm trying to say is I'm throwing the ball back to us as farmers, and yeah, thank you.
So Patrick wants to say something, but just before he says something, let me just add on and say that so one of the things that we are also doing as Alliance for Science, and we've been working on, which we'll actually do in our year 4, is we're now going to be working with agrovets within various counties, and we're going to work with them over WhatsApp groups and ensure that they have the information, because your first port of call as a farmer is you'll normally go to your agrovet and ask him or her for a solution. So we want to ensure that the agrovets are well resourced and also have access to proper information, and also within the same ecosystem of WhatsApp groups, also ensure that we have the CalROs and the other governmental people on the group, so that therefore this becomes our new extension offer to communities and to getting access to information. Patrick, you wanted to say something, then I'll come to Wamalwa there as the last
Thank you,
question.
Michael. I want to echo that because the Alliance for Science has played a very significant role in provision of extension services. For example, through the cotton and the maize projects, we train the community-based resource people who in turn train other farmers, because there are very few government staff in each country, for example. According to the government of Kenya, they are supposed to have at least one extension officer in a ward. But in some places, you'll find one extension officer handling as many as 5 wards. It may not be practical. And one of the things that is helping us through the initiative of Alliance for Science is use of the social media ways of communication. For example, Mr. Magondu, who is a cotton farmer, will agree with me that most farmers in Central and Eastern Province, especially the Lower Eastern Province, are in our WhatsApp, where they share various information regularly on what is happening on cotton and what it should be done. And at least the government crop officers from the various counties respond to those questions, also together with the officers, for example, from ICOSID, because at that point we are able to give some technical backstopping, and the farmers are able to share with other farmers who are not on the WhatsApp platform. So what we are saying is that the Alliance for Science is helping in provision of that extension services through the training that they offer to us, and the training that we cascade down to the community-based resource people, who in turn cascade the same to the farmers on the grassroots.
I think the point that's coming out here for the young people is that there's loads and loads of opportunity. When what looks like a problem is actually an opportunity. Mr. Wamalwa, you have yes, please give him the microphone. And then the lady next to him will also be given an opportunity. And just one question, please. Yes, thank you. Mr. Magundu will come to you too. Okay, fine. We'll take those 3.
Thank you very much. My question is not going to be heavy. Mine is just to commend the panelists, and also just to add, and also maybe to seek for some clarification. Here, basically, when we are talking of farming, it's about food. And this one, you need to understand that food depends on water, and also there's another aspect called energy. So it's a nexus. Now, in this case, we have stakeholders. How do we ensure that there is an increase in sector-wide investment and capacity building? Because the issue of capacity building is not coming out clearly on this. promotion of innovation and evidence action. When you talk of evidence action, this is about things like precision agriculture. How do we ensure that? And then how do we ensure that we enhance cross-sectoral coordination and cooperation among all stakeholders and adoption of a more integrated and holistic approach to water management? Because when we talk of water, we are talking of rain, we are talking of planting trees. It's not about only trees. When it comes to climate change, thank you for those who are coming from semi-arid areas like Kajiado, Kitui. Now, in Nairobi also, we have a problem. When we want to address the issue of climate change, there's no land to plant trees. There's other things that we need to do, and we need to involve the youths, and that is also where there's an opportunity. How do we ensure that these things are done in collaboration? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So I will give that question to Sadiq to answer. But Banawamalwa, yesterday, Governor Sakaja was here, and just to give some insights to what he said with respect to Nairobi, he's very, very clear that as the governor and as the county of Nairobi, first of all, he declared that Nairobi is the climate capital of the world. So he has committed some certain policies, he's committed to some certain things which Nairobi is adopting, which is doing to address the very issues of what it is that you said. He says protecting green spaces, ensuring that building forward is green building away from what is being done. Currently, his office is going to be the first green government building across the world. So there are things that are happening. There's a lot of information. If you, people, please, if you don't mind, our website is climateactionzone.org. Please go to it. You can see some of the things which were there yesterday. So we're happy that the things that you have said, which are very important, have been addressed by ourselves as yesterday, but thank you for bringing them up again, and I was just bringing some insights into them. But Sadiq will answer that, but just hold on, Sadiq. The lady, please, and Mr. Magondu, so we can take all the three together. Please stand up and tell us your name.
Good afternoon. My name is Margaret. I am a founder, and I run an organization called Climate Conscious Generation. What we do in a nutshell is we work with children on climate action. I do not have a question, but I have a comment. You said it's open for...
Yes, it is, absolutely.
Great. First of all, I would like to commend this event here. It's so amazing. I was seated here thinking maybe I didn't get my badge to ACS because this is where I was meant to be. This is an amazing, amazing event with the animations that you guys have done. I cannot wait to borrow or copy this to use with my kids in my organization. The second thing that I wanted to comment on is what my sister there said about the action point that we have to know how we link this information to the ground or to the people in our villages. We have a lot of youth-led organizations that are willing to work. We have children that are willing to listen to us and are willing to learn from us. One of the biggest things that I love about working with children is, one, they believe whatever we are telling them is the truth, and the second thing is that their parents always believe whatever the kids are saying is the truth. So we have such a unique space with working with kids and youth-led organizations. If we would only get this information, and the bigger organizations like you would be willing to work with the youth-led organizations, this information will get to the ground as fast as possible. Another thing that I would want to challenge you to do, you asked him, the farmer from South Africa, I do not remember the names, you asked him, yes, you asked him how he ended up in agriculture. The assumption out there is that us as young people are not interested in agriculture. And I think that is, nothing could be further from the truth. We are, even the modern generation, we are very willing to get into agriculture, but there are so many things working against us and things that I really would want to research or to put effort into finding out. And things as massive as the land policy. If I wanted to farm my land, I would have to ask for permission from my father, or I would have to buy land. There is a lot that hinders us from doing that, and if we got that research, maybe more of us young people who are interested in land, in farming, would find alternatives of going about it, or you'd have a clear data of why young people are not getting into farming. So thank you.
Thank you. As we go to Mr. Magondu, so the other action point from this panel is that young people are interested in farming and the land policies must be changed so that it can be an enabler for them to be able to be farmers. Mr. Magondu, please. Could we get another microphone, please? There, here, on this side, Mr. Magondu. Oh, okay.
Oh, thank you. It is all right. Well, my name is Daniel Magodu. A small-scale cotton farmer and a maize farmer. We grow cotton for food security. When the harsh weather comes and all the maize dries up, I'm left with the cotton because it is a drought-tolerant crop, which I later harvest and sell and buy food for my family. Well, mine here is first a clarification. I'm happy to be with you. I'm the chairman of Sombifac. Sombifac is Society for Biotechnology Farming of Kenya. I have got farmers and farmer leaders who has handled genetically modified crop, BT cotton, across 20 cotton growing counties. My clarification is about your tour to Kirinyaga when you found one hopeless farmer and another one hopeful, I may call it. He was growing BT cotton, the other one was not growing. It is not a matter of having no knowledge that BT cotton is good. He could have grown, but farmers' empowerment, seeds are very expensive, and the ones who managed to get the seeds to plant were given by the government. So many wanted to plant the BT cotton, but they could not get. Even now, we are straining to get the BT cotton seed. The other point is, I have been facing these climate change challenges in my farm. The first one is drought. Second, tropical pests and diseases. And unpredictable rainfall patterns. All this, after trying to work in the farm so that I can produce food, and so is many other farmers, you find that it is bringing a failure. What is the solution? The solution is to adapt modern agricultural technologies. That one will save the farmers to produce more food. And on the other part, a tool like biotechnology to be combined with other tools to increase the food production in the Republic of Kenya and Africa at large. And these other tools are plant breeding, variety selection, organic farming, integrated pest management, and utilization of indigenous knowledge in producing food, so that if all these tools are joined together, we can produce enough to feed the growing population of this country and Africa at large. If I may touch on the other hand, the climate change is with us to stay. What should we do? What is the solution that we can have so that we can continue being food secure? It is the high time for our scientists now to come up and restore our African staple foods, which do not require much rain, which and among these plants, you find that we have bananas, we have cassava, we have millet, we have sorghum, we have cowpea, we have pigeon pea, we have black beans, we have green gums. All these will build small-scale farmer economically, and the families will be food secure. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Bwana Magondu. And I'm just going to give one more person only. Nope, the gentleman in front. Sorry, please, the gentleman in front. Yes, his hand was up, and I'm guided by the MC about time. We have a great session in the afternoon called Relief to Resilience. We shall continue this conversation. So please do not feel that we are stopping anybody. We will continue with the conversation. But the other action point I want to take from what Mr. Magondu has said is that our scientists must work on our orphaned crops, and there must be a combination of different technologies going forward to mitigate climate change. So that's the other action point that's coming out from this particular panel. Yes, sir, please keep it very short because I still have to come back to Sadiq to answer a question, and then we have to do the wrap-up and go for lunch. The conversation does continue after lunch. So yes, sir, please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Kennedy Sankara. I'm here, I work with several organizations. I represent the Youth Senate Kenya. I also work with the Linda Ugatuzi, which is a civil society, as the national youth leader. So as a Laker, farming is also about crop farming. Even fish farming is a vital part. And one of the panelists talked about having some food, and you can't see fish as food or cassava, you only see meat. So, like in the recent past, this has hit news. Kisumu, to be precise, and the lakeside region, the counties have suffered the fishery or the stock. The fish stock has really died out of pollution. My question, without forgetting, what is the Alliance Climate, the Alliance of Science doing, because I believe by contextually understanding the word itself, it's an Alliance of Scientists. What are we going to do to ensure that we stop whatever it is that happens down there, because it affects the lives of young men and women who basically depend on the fish for food and for cash. Again, I would emphasize on what my colleague said.
No, one please.
Okay.
Yes, because of
Thank
time.
you.
But we will, after this, in the afternoon, we'll still continue our conversation. That question that is asking about what is Alliance for Science doing, I'm going to ask Paul to take that one on. He will answer it because I do not want to seem to be dominating the answers. But Sadiq.
Can you please just repeat the question because I forgot, like, with all the information. Can you just repeat the importance of stakeholders engagement and capacity building?
Exactly, so you remember this.
Exactly,
okay, great.
Okay, so for Bangladesh and for Farming Future Bangladesh, I think, and I think not, I believe that stakeholder engagement is really important because, farming is not something, it's an isolated thing. So we need to engage and number of communities, number of stakeholders. For Farming Future Bangladesh, we actually identified 3 stakeholders, which we call it deciders, which in the top tier of the stakeholders, which actually comprised of the policymakers, the political parties, and the other powerful persons. In influencers level, we are working with faith-based communities, social entrepreneurs or something like that, and end users actually people like me, like farmers and that kind of people. So we actually creating a synergy among these stakeholders because without having them in our common goal, we won't get the our common goal of making a country better for economic development, agricultural development. So what we do, the first thing we do, debunk the misinformation, because we are working with the cutting edge technology, frontier technology, and there are a number of misperceptions about those particular, technologies. So we work with the policymakers. We do policy advocacy. We do capacity building training on science communication, how you can communicate with farmers, with end users. So these kind of activities actually are the prescribed thing what we are doing from the Alliance for Science and Farming Future Bangladesh. So we believe that this kind of engagement and capacity building training among the stakeholders is really crucial because, say for example, if we go for the extension officials and their capacities and their words to make agriculture a better thing for the farmers. So in our country, there is FFS, is like farmers field school. So in that particular school, what the extension officials do, they actually train the farmers for adopting new technologies, new varieties. Because after the liberation, or Bangladesh was there are food scarcity, but we come out with that situation. And before the presentation from our CEO, you see that Bangladesh is a number of tofter production country who is producing a number of crops and livestock for our country and for the regional sector. This actually happened because of the collaboration, not the collaboration with the political parties. We also collaborate with private sectors, because when we're talking about farm mechanization, without their support, we won't be able to reach to the grassroots. So this is happening in our country, and we are seeing a very a vertical growth of the development of agriculture development. So this is important: engagement, reach, and collaboration and partnership with different and diverse stakeholders. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So I need to stop here, otherwise I will be murdered by the MC. But before I finish, I just want to ask that let's appreciate the panelists with a round of applause. And forgive me, in the morning, we do have an extremely honored guest amongst us. She was not here with us, but now she's back. I want to recognize that in our presence, we have the Honorable Lady Justice Chimetawa, who has come all the way from Zambia. Please stand up and so we can just recognize you. Thank you so much for leaving your duties and to come and spend time with us. We're extremely grateful and thankful. If you could just do a group photo, then I hand over to the MC. Brent, photographers, where are you? Thank you. So you can stand in front.
Great, ladies and gentlemen, round of applause to Michael and his panel. Thank you also for participating, for listening, for being part of this, and for sharing your thoughts and comments. We will endeavor to afford as many of you a chance to raise issues after this, when we, when we'll be having in our subsequent conversations. So, like we did mention, we have a very important conversation that is coming up in the afternoon. So I'd want you to make time for that. Lunch is 1 hour, okay, at the terrace. So what we'll do is, as you exit, please use exit 1 and 2. You'll be issued with a meal voucher that you will use to access lunch. And then if we could just have strictly 1 hour and get back, we have amazing conversations in the afternoon. Is that okay? Okay, bon appetit. Also, real quick, if there is a delegate by the name Mwando Giba, if you're there, just come see me. Great.